Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, I am so excited, Shay, for this upcoming weekend of SEC football separation Saturday. I'm calling it on this end. I don't know about you. And boy, do we got a loaded show here. We got Zach Goodall, Sports Illustrated, all Gators. Got our buddy Nick Roush, Kentucky Sports Radio, breaking down both sides of this ball game. And man, am I fired up? How you doing, brother?
Yeah, fired up myself. A little late on the pod. I did a big pot of chili. Everybody's probably looking at me like, why is Shane sweating? Is he okay? Yes, I am okay. The problem I ran into, it's like NFL starts today. You know, we got NFL. We got a long weekend of college football. I'm excited about it. You know, get a good pot of chili that lasts you all weekend. But it is 95 degrees outside, so it's not quite fall. I'm just kind of wishing it was. But I'm ready. College football I don't know. It just feels good. It feels right. So I'm in a great spirit, Mike. I'm ready to get our picks in. This is finally, you know, if you didn't listen to yesterday's show, we went about 20 minutes before I realized it wasn't a pick show. But Mike has informed me that I can give my wagers of the week this week. So I'm pumped up, man.
Yeah, and before we get rolling, Shane, I should make note, we probably should talk about this a little bit more often. Otherwise, people are going to stop showing up. But we got Twitter Spaces Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Same time we've been doing it. We'll be tweeting all about it. But, you know, that's always a great time. And I'm sure nobody's going to have any issues with any of these picks we got upcoming. It'll be a great conversation there on the Spaces. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, me too, Mike. I would love nothing more than to get some Arkansas fans against South Carolina, some Kentucky, some hot takes, Kentucky fans going against Florida, Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson. That's what we want to see. So be sure to hop on tonight. We'll be here 8 o'clock. We'll open up a couple cold beers with you and talk some college football.
No doubt. Well, brother, let's kick it off with our first interview. Zach Goodall, Sports Illustrated, all Gators. This is a good one.
The man with the golden hair.
All right, we're pleased to once again be joined by Zach Goodall. You know him from all Gators, Sports Illustrated, covering them Florida Gators. And I got to say, Zach, I really appreciated our chat down at SEC Media Days, and I love the fact that on all Gators, your profile pic comes from our interview.
That's right. That's right. It's also turned into a meme in Gators Twitter. Not that picture, but you told me during that interview that you thought Florida could or maybe even would finish second in the East. And I didn't believe it. I gave you a look. I gave the camera a look, and that has turned into a meme on Twitter. And also, I mean, if week one is any indication, I think your prediction's already a lot closer than mine was.
Yeah. All right. So you're already coming around to the good side. I like to hear that. So before we get to that, I got to ask you real quick, how many cups of coffee do you need to get through to watch a Billy Napier press conference?
I mean, I depend on coffee as is. I developed the addiction when I was in like middle school. So I'm off to a poor start. You know, I don't want to throw them under the bus or anything, but Florida, they've got that new facility, a new place for us to do press conferences. And I've told everyone this in that room, as well as on game days, on the media lounge area. The single best thing Billy Napier has done has put out K-Cup machines for us to use. They've got it in the press conference room. I usually take one or two in the 30 minutes that we're in there, if that speaks to it.
So I wanted to get your takeaways from the Utah game in all seriousness. I mean, Anthony Richardson, my God, he is the talk of college football, and for good reason. I mean, all you got to do is watch that 2-point conversion. I don't think I've ever seen a player make an individual play quite like that. What was your main takeaways from the upset of Utah?
Yeah, it was absurd. And I think that play in particular, I think as a whole, we all kind of knew just how lethal Richardson could be on the ground. I mean, a player of his size, you know, last year in the home opener or season opener, he was clocked at 21 miles an hour rushing, either that or week two, one way or another. So going up against a Pac-12 team, we kind of expected him to be able to use his legs quite a bit. I truthfully was really impressed by his passing. It's not a stat line that's going to blow you away, but it was efficient. 17 to 24. No, I think he threw one near pick, and that was the only bad throw he made of the night. It was, he was pretty accurate. He showed off a lot of zip. The concepts I thought were kind of limited, but it was probably a good thing. You want to build this offense slowly with his comfort level, and the receivers, from what they were able to run, were able to accomplish exactly what the concepts were. And that was, I think, one of the biggest non-Anthony Richardson, things to assess coming into this season is how the receivers would operate in this offense. And it all really seemed to click. I mean, they've got a lot more that they need to do, but when you've got a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, as long as he's got that accuracy and that poise, he's so dangerous that his natural skill set is going to elevate the team. And it certainly did in week one.
And how impressed were you with this offensive line? Because that's been a sore spot for quite a while there in Gainesville. I know it's only one game, so we can't go overboard, but man, they look like a strength of the team potentially.
Yeah, I know we'll dive into Kentucky in a little bit here, but I think that this is a massive test, right here in week 2 for that unit. And they did look really good in week 1. The running game, especially with 3 different backs and Richardson, and 2 of them being new backs in this backfield in Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson, things really did seem to click. They were in unison. You could definitely tell the addition of Osiris Torrance from Louisiana helped the run game and the pass game. I mean, he was very clearly just a step ahead, I think, of everyone else. And that too elevated the line, and across the unit, there is a lot of experience. So there's hope that this will be one of their better units throughout the year. They're definitely off to a great start. But again, Kentucky, especially with this news about Jordan Wright that just came out before we started, this is going to set the bar, in my opinion, at least, as to how good this offensive line could truly be.
Now, you mentioned Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, some highlight plays from them in the opener, but also they each fumbled. Etienne jumped right back on his fumble, but what's the level of concern that they can hold on to the football? Because, if you lose a turnover battle against Kentucky, you're probably going to lose the football game.
Sure thing. And I think that that's why they're really confident in their run game, even with those guys aside, because their starter is someone I didn't even mention in Naquan Wright. And he didn't have the most productive night. He was, I think, 10 for 39, so right around 4 yards per carry. But he's a guy that's proven in this backfield, good pass catcher, good pass blocker as well. So they know they can depend on him to go out there and not commit mistakes. And you got to think, Montrell Johnson coming from the Sun Belt, Etienne earning significant snaps in his true freshman game, that ideally these things will be fixed. They'll get more comfortable as things go along. But that's the beauty of this offense. If Etienne and Johnson are going to fumble the ball, you can have Wright and Richardson step right in and make impact plays.
Now, how big of a challenge is it for Florida this week, Zach, to not get caught up in the hype? Another sellout. I mean, they're the toast of college football. Everyone's telling them how great they are. I'm sure that's not the message in the building, but everyone outside of it. How difficult is it to kind of block out that noise?
I'm sure it's difficult, but at the same time, I think that's been a massive point of emphasis for Billy Napier. He said it on the teleconference yesterday that the ranking just doesn't matter. I mean, you can tell that that's his Nick Saban influence and the whole rat poison aspect of it. But I think the players have bought in. From the guys we've talked to this week, they've not really provided any bulletin board material, not getting ahead of themselves. Tyreek Sapp is a redshirt freshman, played in his first game of the season this past week against Utah. And the very first thing he said was, we can't get complacent. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. So at least when it comes to, stepping in front of the mic and talking to the media, they're saying the right things, but that's going to be a huge test. We know, as we were talking about in July, that this is going to be an emotional game. It's going to be one of the bigger priorities, I think, for Florida this season is to win this game. They've got to be all in. They can't afford any distractions in order to, they don't want to slip to Utah for the third time in 5 years after that streak that they had for however many it was before that.
Now, do you think Florida needs Anthony Richardson to have another heroic type performance to win this game against Kentucky?
I think that's going to be the case a lot this season because the roster still definitely isn't in Florida Gators shape as we know it. There's still a lot of development. We've seen some intriguing things, but like the run defense, they're fortunate that Kentucky is without 3 running backs this week because they allowed 180, ish yards in the second half to Utah. That's the reason that was still a game that late into the game. They're going to need an elevating performance, I would say, from Richardson. However, because Kentucky typically has a very sound run defense, they've got a really great looking front seven with several all SEC players. I want to see Richardson take his passing game to the next level. This is a relatively inexperienced Wildcat secondary. We've started to see some, glimpses of hope from this passing offense. Ricky Pearsall, I mean, the addition at wide receiver, they've been all about what he can bring to this offense, and we saw it start to click last week. I think we're going to want to put a focus on the passing game executing better this time around compared to what it was last year against Kentucky. I think ultimately the lack of trust in Emory Jones and the lack of a passing game last year is why they lost the game.
And how does the Florida defense, particularly the secondary, do they match up against Will Levis? And he's got some young receivers, but they looked pretty good in the opener. And they've got the transfer Tavion Robinson from Virginia Tech, who was incredible against, I know it was Miami of Ohio, but he looked great. Do you anticipate Will Levis having a big game against Florida?
So that's my thing. Is I'm personally not the biggest Levis fan. I think he's a very good college quarterback, and I love the addition of Robinson. I think he was their leading receiver already last week in week 1 in his first game, and he put up some big numbers. But I look back to last year at home, especially against the worst Florida Gators defense I think anyone's seen in a long time. And Levis went 7 of 17 with like 80 something passing yards. I obviously expect him to improve. He's gotten a lot more comfortable in that offense since the last time these teams played. But I think Florida's got the talent on their passing defense, especially to limit him, especially if his go-to target is someone he's only played 1 game with at this point. They love their cornerback room with Jason Marshall leading the way, and I think he's going to man up on Robinson quite a bit. The pass rush needs to get home. That was an issue for Kentucky last week. They allowed 4 sacks, I believe, but Florida wasn't able to get any on Cameron Rising. So that's going to be a huge test. I think in the secondary, they're comfortable enough to where they could contest with Levis quite a bit, but the pass rush is going to have to get home.
So is it safe to say, Zach, that, football is not this simple, but we kind of make it out to be where it's Anthony Richardson versus Will Levis. And I'm not saying it's going to be a shootout, but it may come down to which quarterback can make the most plays in this game. I'm kind of leaning towards thinking that you think Anthony Richardson will be the guy that comes out on top if that's the way the game plays out. Is that accurate?
I'm at the point now where I am pretty comfortably leaning with Florida, and I'm not sure necessarily if that's going to require Anthony to be a hero necessarily. But I do think, again, it is going to require him elevating the offense a bit and certainly as a passer. And with that in mind, again, with Kentucky's running back situation, it's almost forced to be that Richardson and Levis matchup, which should certainly be exciting. It's another sellout crowd, and we saw how that affected Utah earlier in the game this past week. Will that get to Levis? I've not really seen him in that environment myself to where he's got 90,000 plus, screaming down on him. And can he handle that with lack of weapons, in a vacuum? I don't think he's really got that much around him that's proven himself in the passing game aside from Robinson. So I do think ultimately it will come down to a competition between those two. And at this point, I feel more comfortable with Richardson coming out on top.
So what is the path in your mind for Florida to get the win over Kentucky at home this weekend?
Start strong, especially in the passing game. Get Pearsall a little bit more involved. I think that they stretched the seam with him pretty well this past week. But again, I think the offense was a little limited, maybe manufacture him some touches. And if you can get off to that early lead, then you go to your ground and pound, as we saw a lot throughout Utah, and try and control it from that point on.
How big does this game loom over the Florida season? Because if you fall down to 0-1 in SEC play, your next SEC game, I know there's another one we've talked about on the road at Tennessee. We'll find out a lot more of how good Tennessee really is this weekend against Pitt. But, if you lose this, there's I'd say a decent chance that Florida's 0-2 in conference play right out the gate. So this one, how big is it for the season?
Yeah, I think it would humble the fan base quite a bit because rightfully so, everyone is pumped. Like Napier said the other day, everyone's ready to crown the Gators. he's not ready to. He sees a lot of room for improvement despite a historic jump in the rankings. And I certainly think Tennessee is going to be a tough game. I am not confident in saying Florida will win that game quite yet. Granted, definitely want to see more from Tennessee, but it was a team I was high on coming into the season. Obviously, again, a loss would humble the fan base, maybe bring them a little bit more back into reality. But if they win this game, then I suddenly start to feel a lot better about going in. And obviously, it's a totally different type of offense, but being able to hang with a team like Tennessee, feeling a lot more confident in conference play. And if they beat Kentucky and they beat Tennessee, based on what we've seen out of LSU, there's a chance they go into the Georgia game undefeated at that point. Ooh. I don't think that's necessarily likely. I definitely didn't think it was likely before the season, but a loss would definitely change everything, because if they can win this and then win the Tennessee game, suddenly they're going to be viewed as the hottest team in America, probably, all things considered.
All right, Zach, moment of truth. Who you got in the ball game, Kentucky or Florida?
I've got Florida. I could see Kentucky covering. I'm not necessarily confident in a score prediction yet, but I think it'll be close to Kentucky covering.
All right, Zach, I really appreciate your time and all this outstanding information. Can you tell the audience before you go, where's the best place to find all your work?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Zach_Goodall, as well as all my written work over at allgators.com.
And he's all over that page with the photo from SEC Media Days.
That's right. That is the best picture I've gotten on the job in a while.
All right, brother. So, hey, how great was that? And not only, I appreciate the fact that we gave him his profile pic down there at SEC Media Days. And this is the first time I'm aware of, Shane, that we were able to make someone a meme based on coming on our show.
That's right, man. I love it. We creating memes, building relationships. We do it all here at that SEC podcast. Hell, we got cited for a paper today. I don't even know what that's about. I'm sure it's probably a court document we got to go to. So.
Yeah, that actually happened. And please, no one, please don't cite anything we say here in any kind of academic or legal setting, because it will not hold up. Trust me.
No, it will not.
All right, buddy. So, hey, we got one more interview. Like I said, Nick Roush, he always delivers. He's going to be down there traveling all the way to Gainesville to take in this game. We've got Zach picking the Gators. Let's see what old Nick's got for us. Will he pick Kentucky? Find out right here. All right, we're pleased to be joined by one of our favorites, Nick Roush, Kentucky Sports Radio. You know him as the host of the 11 Personnel podcast with Adam Luckett, one of the best podcasts out there. Nick, thanks for joining us once again.
I'm happy to be here on that SEC podcast, and excited for this weekend, man. We knew it was going to be a big one, and Florida really amplified the stakes with a big win over Utah. So they're the flavor of the month, and I think Kentucky likes that. I think Kentucky loves having all of the Florida hype going into this week. They excel with the chip on their shoulder, and they got it. They got it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask you all about that, but before we get to that, I wanted to get your thoughts on the opener against Miami. Personally, I thought Kentucky started a little slow, just completely dominated the second half like you'd expect a ranked team to do against Miami. What was your main takeaways from the ball game?
It was, there was a lot of similarities in many Mark Stoops opening games, except the one difference is the Cats covered. They hit their team total over, right? It's Stoops likes to keep things vanilla, especially ahead of a big game like this versus Florida. They didn't do a ton of creative things on offense, but we did get to see a little bit of what's to come. And I think the biggest takeaway I've got is that you are going to see, whereas it used to be maybe 60-40 run, closer to 50-50 last year, it's probably going to be more like 60-40 pass, particularly without Chris Rodriguez in the fold. We don't have any news one way or the other, but they're preparing to play without him. And now that that's the case, go out there, Will Levis, go win yourself a football game. He had 300 yards, 3 touchdowns in the opener, and they're going to need a lot of that, and maybe then some down in the swamp this weekend.
Well, I'm glad you hit on that, because I wanted to ask you, do you think it's at all possible they went into that ball game saying, hey, we know we can beat Miami of Ohio. We have got to get these receivers, Berrien Brown, Dane Key, and even Tavian Robinson, he's not a young guy, I get it, but he's new to the team. We have got to build this chemistry because we don't have much time before SEC play. Do you think there's anything to that?
Oh, there certainly is, and we got that. You saw late in the second half, even though the game was effectively over, Kentucky's still throwing the ball. Those guys need reps. That was when Brown got his longest reception of the day. So when Key got his first touchdown, you want to build confidence in those early games, and I certainly think we got that, and you got in a lot of young guys too. It wasn't just the receivers. Deion Walker from Detroit, he's a big 6'7", 340-pound guy who can play defensive tackle. He's not just a nose. He went and got 4 tackles, and we talked to him this week, and he's like, I learned that if I get north, nobody can stop me. So you have confidence from those guys. Keaton Wade had a big stop on third down. I don't think they'll need him as much at outside linebacker thanks to some late breaking news. But also Alex Afari, he played 43 snaps at nickel, position they typically aren't eagerly rolling it. Like they want an experienced guy who can play smart, and he played well. He was second on the team in tackles, had a sack, tackle for a loss. So the future is bright with a lot of talented freshmen on this roster.
So you hinted at it there. Jordan Wright, that's the big news, eligible to play, returning to the field. How big of a boost is this for the Kentucky defense going into this Florida game?
It's huge. It's huge. And, even if he doesn't go out and get a bunch of sacks, Wright throughout his career has been a havoc maker. I think he only has 7.5 sacks, but he's really sprayed the ball elsewhere. He's got 2 defensive touchdowns in his career, a bunch of forced fumbles. He picked off a pass last year against Mississippi State. And it really opens up the playbook for Brad White. Last week, they played a lot of nickel. You're going to go back to more 3-4 because you've got 2 experienced outside linebackers. He's a super senior team captain. You need that stout presence when you're going up against a guy like Anthony Richardson. Those are the contain guys, the outside linebackers. Florida ran for 283 yards last week. You need big bodies in there. And the one thing we definitely didn't see in week 1 is some of those the creeper blitzes, right, where you're bringing an outside linebacker, you're dropping a defensive lineman in coverage to try to confuse the quarterback. Brad White can really take off the gloves this week and do a lot of stuff that just Florida hasn't seen on tape.
Now, I know you wrote about this at the Kentucky Sports Radio. Go check it out if you haven't already. But Roman Harper with some interesting comments here on this Florida-Kentucky matchup. He's picking Florida big, called Kentucky soft. When in the hell has Mark Stoops' football team ever been defined as soft, that's totally inaccurate. Well, if we had Roman Harper on this call right now, Nick, what would you say to him?
I would say, Roman, thank you. Thank you so much, because that's exactly what this Kentucky football team needed to hear. Mark Stoops even admitted after the game that, sometimes you don't know if they're taking a business-like approach or they're going through the motions. And at times they were going through the motions. Thanks to your kind comments, Roman, I don't think that's going to be the case on Saturday. They've reshuffled that offensive line. They've got Kenneth Horsey kicked out the offensive tackle. And while he's inexperienced there, they're putting their best 5 on the field. They know who their best blockers are going to be. They're going to be all on the field at once. Lavelle Wright is healthier than he was a week ago. And even though you don't have Chris Rodriguez or Ramon Jefferson, you're going to see a much different looking Kentucky offense this Saturday in the Swamp.
Well, you referenced that offensive line. Gave up 4 sacks against Miami of Ohio, a lot of those in third down passing situations. What's the level of concern that that's going to be an issue against Florida, which they did not get a sack in that Utah game?
My concern is less about the pass protection, because Kentucky really wanted to test David Wallaball to see if he could do it. I don't think he passed that test, so they've changed up things. But they're also going to have tight ends help in protection, right? They're going to slide things a different way. Schematically, I think they'll be helped in pass protection. Where I'm more concerned about is in the running game. Even if you take out the negative sack yards, they only had 75 yards and 3 yards of carry there. Like, that's not the Kentucky rushing attack we're accustomed to. And where it really hurts him, Mike, is that it's in the play action game. In the second half, the Miami guys they were crashing down on Will Levis because they didn't have to respect the run. This Kentucky offensive line needs to help bust a few big plays early on just to make the Florida defense respect that vital play action passing portion of their offense.
Now, on the latest edition of the 11 Personnel podcast, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I thought you made an excellent point, Nick, about red zone in this game. Anthony Richardson was just a monster in the red zone for Utah. Kentucky, obviously, at this point in time, without Chris Rodriguez, They're hammered down there in the red zone. Do you think Florida has an edge in the red zone in this matchup?
I do, and because Richardson, I mean, just tackling that guy is hard enough, right? And when you get inside the 20s, the condensed field, there's not as much space to work with. You need a guy that can move the pile. And frankly, the best person to move the pile for Kentucky right now is Will Levis. In 4 first half opportunities, granted, one of those was into half. They were kind of running out of time sort of aspect. But they settled for 2 field goals, and one of those drives ended with a 4th down interception in the end zone. Kentucky has to be effective, capitalize on scoring opportunities. In the 2 wins against Florida, Kentucky really bowed up in the red zone. In the last trip, Dan Mullen punted on the Kentucky 37. They forced field goals. Florida missed field goals in certain situations. So this is huge. This is huge. That's where your money's made. As much as we're going to break down this game, a lot of it's going to come down to who takes care of the ball best and who can capitalize on scoring opportunities.
What's your confidence level that Will Levis has a better game than Anthony Richardson in this Saturday?
It's actually pretty high. And I know that might sound crazy going into this, the way that Richardson played last week, but Will Levis had his worst game of the year against Florida last year. And I think he remembers that all too well. And then you factor in Richardson, like as great as he was, he can't always be that great, right? Like I'm not saying it's a guarantee that he's going to regress, but both of these guys have had turnover problems throughout their careers. Richardson was clean. He played almost a perfect game. I find it hard to believe that he can play a perfect game against top 25 teams in back-to-back weeks, particularly against a very experienced Kentucky defense with a lot of seniors playing inside linebackers. All he has to do is make 1 or 2 mistakes, and that can cost the Gators the game.
So if Kentucky wins on Saturday, what's the path for that to happen?
I think it comes down to Will Levis not only throwing the ball well, but being effective in the running game. We didn't see any of that design Q run. I think we're going to see some of that this week. And here's something that it gets talked about a lot at Kentucky because they love their tight ends. But I think tight end usage is going to be important because you saw Florida's linebackers wear down throughout the game. They're not very deep there. If you can get those tight ends running routes, it only takes a couple of, mess ups by some of those linebackers to create big plays. So I think you need to have a solid quality performance from the tight ends and for Will Levis to really be the player that the Wildcats expect him to be in 2022.
How huge does this game loom for Kentucky, just the overall season? You don't want to put too much stock in one game, but
right.
If you really have visions of getting to Atlanta, to me, it seems very difficult. You drop this game, you're going to get there. What do you say?
Well, the good news is like a big picture, we're all prisoners of the moment, but Kentucky's big 3 home games, they go to Tennessee, Florida, and Ole Miss. If you win 2 out of 3 of those, you're still in position to do what you want to be able to do at the end of the season. So it's not life and death. However, you play an FCS team next week, then G5, and then you go on the road to Ole Miss. It might take some of that air out before you get another home game against South Carolina. So in Kentucky's 2 10-win seasons, they both included wins over Florida. And for you to get that momentum going, for you to get those dreams big and dreams to be as big as you want of playing in Atlanta, this week gives you a little bit more wiggle room before you go on the road at Ole Miss and at Tennessee. So while it isn't the worst case scenario if Kentucky loses, it can do so much for your program. You can watch you'll be a top 10 team at that Ole Miss game. So it can do so much for you, getting momentum going in the right direction for the Wildcats. And Mark Stoops will pass Bear Bryant with the most wins as a Kentucky head coach. Like it shouldn't be an asterisk, but it kind of is in a matchup that means a ton for this Kentucky football program.
All right, final question, Nick. Moment of truth. Who you got winning the ball game?
Once the dust settled and I watched them that Florida-Utah game, I was ready to say, without Chris Rodriguez, Kentucky can't do it. Jordan Wright's back. I really believe in this UK defense. While they may not have a ton of first-round NFL draft picks next year, they have JJ Weaver can be that dude. He's played big in this game. This game means a lot to him. He tore his ACL playing against Kyle Pitts the last time down there. I think this Kentucky defense does bow up, play well against the run, force Anthony Richardson to make some difficult throws. And I think that ultimately they can keep it a low-scoring affair and come away with a 27-24 victory.
Ooh, I like it. All right, Nick, before you go, tell the audience where's the best place to find all your work.
You mentioned 11 personnel before. If you want to hear more about that breakdown, we did it's as thorough breakdown as you'll find. Go check us out there. More KentuckySportsRadio.com, the Kentucky Sports Radio YouTube channel. I've also got a morning radio show from 7 to 9. You can find all those links at my Twitter feed at RoushKSR.
Okay, brother. Hey, we're 2 for 2 with the Homer picks. I love it. Yeah, I love it when we got different guests saying different things, different winners here. And I, that's just a tease for our picks upcoming, but can't wait for it.
I love it, man. A bunch of homers just talking college football, right?
Mm-hmm.
On cloud nine. No, there's some good comments here from Nick. Of course, Goodall. He's always a joy. I'd like to see these guys in a ring, man. Who you think would win in that fight? I think Nick would he'd be like a blunt object, just going straight at him, and I think the other one would be like, trying some trickeration, like Ric Flaired up a little bit.
Yeah, you got to be careful of those Florida.
Yeah, I'm telling you, absolutely. Yeah, I love it, man. But again, they're both excited about what they're bringing to the field Saturday, and as am I, Mike.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, brother, before we get to our picks, hey, we got to take care of some business here, and don't forget, podcast is sponsored by Wager. Wager app, if you haven't already, go on and check it out. You use that promo code SEC on the Wager app. You can find the link in the show notes. They're going to give you $20. Greatest thing about the Wager app, Shane, you can wager against Shane and I. You're not betting against Vegas or anything like that. You can bet with your buddies on the Wager app. Just come on down. This is a Nashville-based business. We're on the app. Search us out, that SEC podcast. We got a whole community there. We're putting up our wagers of the weeks on this app. And like I said, $20 free with that promo code SEC. You don't even have to put in a credit card, Shane. I've never heard of a deal quite like this, but it's a good time over there on the Wager app, isn't it?
It really is. And we're putting, like I said, some of our own money up. We're putting our money where our mouth's at. It's a fun little thing. I've got 10 $10 bets for the wagers of the week. You may not like this wager. I mean, I am on fire right now. I don't want you to get scared, because eventually I'm going to trip up. Maybe it's this week, but I got these bets laying up online. If you want to take them, come get it. I picked a few other teams as well, so I'm just that confident in my picks. And if you feel confident in yours, like I said, come take my money.
Yeah, we are currently undefeated with
That's
our
right.
wagers of the week. All season long. So basically, we can't be beaten. I don't know if any of you are man or woman enough to challenge us on our wagers of the week.
right.
But if you are, head on down to the Wager app. Again, you can find that in the show notes. Tennessee residents only, 21 and up. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. And the podcast, Shane, also brought to you by Prize Picks. Back for another year. Daily fantasy sports, and what I love about Prize Picks, Shane, college football. You said NFL's kicking off right now, obviously. You can wager on NFL players as well, NBA when that starts to roll around, Major League Baseball, all the action over at Prize Picks. Again, use that promo code SEC, and they'll match your initial deposit up to $100 over at Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is available all over the SEC, so come on, play some Prize Picks with us, Shane. And, man, I am on fire. I got 2 out of 3 last week. I got 2 out of 2 opening week. And I have got some winners with the Prize Picks this week, Shane. So you ready to hear my selections?
Yeah, I'm ready, man, because you are on fire. I was a little upset about the Sam Houston one last week, but I've officially retired the Texas A&M talk. So, but, yeah, let's hear what you got this week, Mike. I got a couple myself.
Yeah, and over at Prize Picks, this is pretty cool, Shane. They're now doing, it's usually you go over or under passing yards, or rushing yards, or touchdowns. Now they have it to where you can do passing and rushing yards.
Right.
And I call attention to that, Shane, because there's 2 that I'm loving right here. Will Levis, 255.5 total passing and rushing. I mean, I don't see any way, unless they just completely shut him down, that Will Levis is not going over with, again, his passing and his rushing totals, 255.5 total yards. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that. This is going to be a Will Levis game. And, we don't even know who's running the ball. You know who's running the ball? Will Levis is going to be running the ball. They're going to take the handcuffs off of him and let him play some football. And that I expect the over here as well. I like that pick, Mike.
Now, you like that one? You're going to love this one, brother. Hendon Hooker, 290.5. Again, this is passing and rushing. I mean, he's going to probably hit that just passing by himself. You know what I mean? So give me over Hendon Hooker, 290.5 total yards.
Sounds like you're predicting a little bit of shootout, just like I am, Mike. So I like the over as well. The offense runs through Hendon Hooker, and Hendon Hooker may have that by half.
Yeah. All right, how about this one? Tank Bigsby, Shane, 111.5 rushing yards against San Jose. Get the hell out of here, San Jose. He had 147 rushing yards last year, and I don't even think he played much of the second half. So Tank is a machine. Give me the over. He's going to get 112 rushing yards easy, don't you think?
Dad joke incoming. Can you stop the Tank? San Jose. Oh, my daughter's going to love that one.
Now, one of my favorite players, Shane, in the SEC, that he's only got one game under his belt in the conference, but he was a beast last week. He's going to beast again. Zach Evans, Ole Miss running back, 108.5 rushing yards against Central Arkansas. I didn't even know they had a team in Central Arkansas. Give me that over. He may hit this by halftime.
Absolutely. I like that one as well. Am I going to get a pick in here, Mike? Or are they all going to be yours?
I got one more.
All right.
That this is a stone cold.
It's probably the one. It's probably one I've been sitting on. Let's hear it.
Keisha Butte, Shane.
Oh, okay. All right.
77.5 receiving yards against Southern. I mean, come on, get out of here with that. Keisha Butte, we did not get him involved in the opener against Florida State, and there was always the drama after the game. You got to imagine LSU. We know what Jaden Daniels can do on the ground. We know there's issues with the offensive line, but this is a game where you got to get Keisha Butte going. He may catch 10 passes in this ball game. Give me over 77.5 receiving yards for Keisha Butte.
Absolutely. It reminds me of his Keyshawn. Remember, give me the damn ball. That's kind of what it felt like week one. He was not happy with the performance. He wasn't happy with the usage. So what do? You feed him the damn rock. So I like that, Mike. Good pick.
So what do you got for us on the prize picks?
I got one more because a couple of ones you've already touched on, but it's Anthony Richardson, 2.5 touchdowns. Now, when it says 2.5, it's rushing and passing. Offense goes through Anthony Richardson. I think this is going to be a scoring game, and I like Anthony Richardson to at least get 21 points on the board. So give me the over. 2.5 is the prize pick.
Oh, okay, brother. I like that. And Shay, we got one more sponsor. Man, we are loading up with sponsors.
Hey, we got to pay them bills, Mike. Come on,
exactly. And this Guardian Brace is a new sponsor.
Yes.
We got a Guardian Brace injury report. Shane, this is a company out of Arkansas. Big Razorback fans reached out to us, Shane. And if you got knee issues, Guardian Brace has got you covered with the next generation of knee braces called Rehabilitators. Rehabilitators are wearable technology engineered to reduce and eliminate knee pain by simply walking on the brace 3 hours a day for 90 days. This is covered by insurance, so check it all out. There's a link in the show notes, www.freebody.io, for a risk-free 30-day trial. And we have got an injury update, Shane, and that's the game that I wanted to hit on, speaking of Arkansas, because we got so many dinged up guys here for the Arkansas and South Carolina team. So the Guardian Brace injury update, Shane, potentially some good news for Arkansas. Running back Dominique Johnson back on the practice field this week. He had not played in the opener. He was a standout running back last season. Of course, we got a couple tanks back there in Fayetteville, so Sam Pittman's kind of up in the air on whether Dominique Johnson will play, but that is certainly one to watch, just another weapon for this Arkansas Razorback offense. Now, that's the good news. The bad news, Shane, Jalen Catalon, Miles Slusher, no update on those defensive backs, but that, we're very high on Arkansas, but being down those guys potentially could be bad news for Spencer Rattler and company coming to town. So that has got to be on the minds of every Arkansas fan out there. Jalen Catalon, Miles Slusher, status unclear, and I don't know if they're keeping it as a secret because they don't want to reveal who's going to be in this game or not, but that could be a major factor. Whereas on the other side of the ball game, or the other side of the coin, Shane, South Carolina getting some good news because running back Christian Beal-Smith expected to go for the Gamecocks. This will be his first game. Sherrod Green, the starting linebacker, good to go. And then one bit of bad news, Corey Rucker, the receiver, very doubtful for this Arkansas game. So we got a mix of good and bad for this Guardian Brace injury update. But all right, brother, hey, down to business here. We're here for a reason to pick these ball games.
Yeah.
And before we do, hey, I just want to call attention to this, Shane. Not that we're tooting our own horn, because we know this is going to crash and burn and blow up in our faces. So we got to take a moment here to recognize Shane and I's picks so far this year. I'm 15-0 straight up. Shane is 14-1. Incredible numbers from you, Shane.
Yeah.
And we are both 10-2 against the spread. Just incredible. And like I said, wagers of the week, I'm 3-0. Cousin Shane, 4-0.
4-0,
so,
baby.
Oh, brother, are we hot right now?
That's right.
I'm expecting this to crash and burn this weekend.
That's right. Vegas called me this week, said, Shane, you are not allowed to come here. You're on fire. No, they're welcoming me. This is because, like you said, I'm due. But we're gonna right now. Who knows, Mike? Maybe it is a new thing. You know, I'm the Matthew McConaughey. You know, Al Pacino's gonna be calling us for long, saying, "Hey, why don't you come over here and do some picks for us?" You know, I'm terrible at impersonations.
So we got 3 games real quick, Shane. We're not going to pick the spread because it's FCS opponents.
Yes.
No legitimate spreads available, but just wanted to get one thought for each game that you'll be looking for. And let's start, Shane, with Southern at LSU, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on the SEC Network. What will you be looking for from them LSU Tigers looking to bounce back after suffering a defeat to Florida State?
Well, I think you hit one of them with your prize picks there. I want to see Butte get involved. I want to see this team stop. It just felt at times it was just clunky, and that when the offense wasn't moving, we got to get that passing game rolling. And if they don't do it against Southern, they won't do it anywhere. So this is a good tune-up game. This is good practice. So that's what I'm looking for, passing attack.
Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You could do whatever the hell you want to this Southern team.
Mm-hmm.
You could rush for 400 yards probably, but that is not going to help you down the line here. We have got to get these receivers going. That's supposed to be a strength of this team. Couldn't get them the ball. Yeah. Now, I know Florida State, hell, for all we know, maybe they're a top 10 team. I ain't buying that, but we have got to see a lot more than what we've seen in the opener. And the only other thing I can add, Shane, let's see if we can field a punt, because that cost us 2 fumbles. Malik Neighbors, a great player, just unfortunately had those 2 miscues. Let's get that cleaned up before we get into SEC play.
Yeah, I saw a lot of memes on that one this week, Mike. I don't want it to be a joke anymore. Here, we made a joke about them losing. We've made a joke about, Brian Kelly's press conference. Just don't be a joke anymore. LSU, put your big boy pants on and go play some college football and just beat the shit out of this team.
Yep. All right, next one, Shane. Sanford, not Stanford, Sanford at Georgia, number 2 Georgia, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central on the SEC Network. What will you have your eye on this one?
Mike, I know this sounds crazy, but just don't get hurt. Get the starters out. I'm not expecting anything. I don't need to see anything. I saw everything I needed to see week 1. Even the punter is mad at the quarterback for not letting him get any punts. He says he's got something against Australian punters. So I don't know, maybe some special teams practice here. I really, this is a joke of a game, and I want him to just go out there, get it over with. Maybe see some of these younger kids. I guess if I'm looking for anything, it's who's the next guy, who's the next X factor. Somebody we could talk about later in the season being a key contributor to this Georgia Bulldog team. Because as we get into SEC play, we're going to need competitive depth. So that's I guess if I'm looking at anything, and I know it sounds crazy, but the backups.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see a lot of freshmen, redshirt freshmen in this ball game. But for me, Shane, really, I just want to see the backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because I think Stetson he'll probably get 4 or 5 series, and he'll probably lead 4 or 5 touchdown drives. So let's see what we got in Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift, maybe even the true freshman Gunnar Stockton. Hopefully they all get some reps. I just want to see those guys on a college field outside of a spring game. You know what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, last one here, Shane. Central Arkansas at number 22 Ole Miss.
Yes.
7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, ESPN and SEC Network Plus. This one got relegated to the Plus Network, Shane. What do you got your eye out on this one?
Cleaning up. This is a good cleanup from week 1. There was a lot of mistakes, a lot of stupid mistakes, stupid injury. Not injuries, but I'm sorry, stupid flags, things that could easily have been
turnovers.
Avoided. Yeah, just dumb. Just clean it up. That's what I want to see. I want to see the growth of this team. Because they did come out. Defense looked great. But I want to see more from the offense.
Yeah, and for me, Shane, defense was lights out in the first half. They were kind of shaky against Troy, so I want to see him play 4 quarters. No excuse not to play 4 quarters of defense against Central Arkansas. And then it's Luke Altmaier. I want to see what he's like under center, but I just don't know what we're going to learn. I mean, hell, he could throw for 7 touchdowns, and we'd still be like, well, can he do that against Kentucky coming up here in a couple weeks? So I don't know that we're going to learn much from the quarterback position, but of course I'm going to have my eye on it.
Yeah, maybe we get maybe solidify that position, But like you said, it's tough to gauge against a team like this.
Yeah. All right, Shane. Now we got some real picks here with some real point spreads. So
yeah,
you ready to make your selections here?
Hell yeah! Let's crank it up, baby.
Well, let's start here with San Jose State, Shane, at Auburn. Auburn Tigers favored by 22 points. Over-unders 48.5. This thing kicks off at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ESPNU. Who do you got in the game?
Man, it's going to look like the 1950s Auburn. There's going to be so much running up and down this field. I can't see this being a game at all. They really got to try some different things here. It needs to be more of a tune-up. It needs to be like a scrimmage, and get some players out there. But I just don't think we see it, Mike. I think we see a very, very conservative game again. I think we lean heavy on that running attack, which they're going to be able to move the ball. It's going to be slow. It's going to be boring. I don't think you're going to enjoy this game if you're watching it. Maybe if you're an Auburn fan. But I think there's a real shot that San Jose backdoors this cover and gets a little wild at the back. Auburn's trying to work out some competitive depth situation. So I've got Auburn winning, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's 28-0 going in the fourth quarter. But I've got San Jose sneaking back in the back door, 28-17, so not covering the spread there. Give me San Jose with the points.
You might be onto something there, Shane. San Jose State 1-0, beat Portland State. I didn't even know Portland was a state in the opener there. They forced 3 turnovers. Their quarterback scored 3 touchdowns, Shane. Here's a name to know, defensive end Cade Hall. He was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year heading into the season. And we know offensive line, not exactly a strong suit of Auburn, so that's something to watch. And how about this, Shane? I had forgotten all about this. San Jose State beat an SEC team last time they faced them. Can you believe that?
No. Who'd they beat? Do you remember?
Chad Morris, Arkansas Razorbacks.
Oh, God. Well, at least he's not in Auburn,
So this coach is 1-0 against SEC schools, Shane. So I say all that to say this. They ain't got no chance in hell, Shane, of going 2-0 against the SEC. I'll go even stronger than you, Shane. I mean, I just don't think they're going to have any answer for this running attack. And I know TJ Finley made some mistakes. We got to see that cleaned up. As long as he doesn't throw any interceptions, this is going to be another cakewalk to march into 2-0, heading into that big Penn State game in a week from now. I got Auburn 38, San Jose State 13. I think Auburn covers that 22 points.
Hey, do you see a little bit more quarterback movement here in this game? This again, I know it was flashy, but I don't know. This other kid looked pretty damn good. So I don't know how we can
Robbie
keep him
Ashford.
off. Yeah,
he's just so dynamic back there. But all reports just very inconsistent as a passer, but maybe he just needs those reps.
Yeah.
And he is a gamer. I mean, he certainly looked like a little spark plug back there in the opener, and maybe that's what they need to pull an upset, if you even want to call it that, against Penn State in a week from now. You know what? How about this matchup, Shane? Missouri at Kansas State. Kansas State favored by 7.5 points. The over-under is 56.5. This game kicks off at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on ESPN2. Obviously, this is a non-conference matchup currently, but these two teams have faced so many times, Shane. Missouri holds an all-time edge over Kansas State with actually 5 ties in there. They've been playing so long, they got ties in this series. But, this is going to be a nice little matchup for both these fan bases to see a familiar face on the other sideline. You know what?
Man, I was ready to call a Mizzou blowout in this game, Mike. Not going to lie. Then I heard old Steve getting on there and preaching them facts, and it got me convinced that this game's going to be closer than I expect. And he's very high on Kansas State, so I will recognize that, but I will also recognize this is the best damn conference in the country, and I've got faith in Coach Eli. I think he comes away with the victory here. Morristown Honda dealership score of the game. I've got Missouri 28, Kansas State 27.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, this is just such a hard game to predict because Kansas State came out and they looked dominant, but they were playing South Dakota. I mean, who in the hell is that? They don't have any good players on that team. I know they got a hell of a running back in Deuce Vaughn, 126 yards in the opener. They got a quarterback, Nebraska transfer, but they ran his ass out of Nebraska. And last time I checked, Nebraska, man, they've been terrible under Scott Frost. So how good is this guy? Really only threw for 50-some yards in the opener. This is just going to be a completely new challenge for Kansas State. They do get the home field advantage. That could be critical. I agree with you, Shane. This could be a toss-up type game. Mm-hmm. But man, all they do at Missouri is produce these running backs.
Yes.
323 rushing yards last week, and that was with a quarterback making his debut as the team's QB1. So you knew La Tech had to know the running game was coming. They couldn't stop it.
Couldn't.
Missouri forced 3 turnovers in the ball game. 9 different receivers caught a pass, and that's what we've been saying, Shane. Watch out for this receiving core led by Luther Burden, the star freshman. Mm-hmm. People are sleeping on Missouri. They ain't going to be sleeping on them after Saturday. I'm right there with you. We almost got the same score here. Missouri 30, Kansas State 28. This game's going to come down to a last-minute field goal, and the thicker Mevis he's going to nail a 50-yarder as time expires. Watch.
I love it, man. Oh God! And how many scores is Luther getting this one?
2. I give him 2.
Yeah. He's just so, and nobody's talking about him yet. But they put a couple of these weeks together. I mean, I'm telling you right now, he is one of the most electric athletes, not just a wide receiver I have ever seen.
Yeah, we just got to find more ways to get him the ball.
Exactly.
Now, how about this one, Shane? This is going to be a midnight classic over here. Mississippi State on the road at Arizona. Mm-hmm. Mississippi State favored by 10.5 points. The over-under 61. And this sucker, Shane, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 Central on FS1. I didn't even know they had SEC games all out with FS1. A little something here, Shane, you need to know before making a selection. They have sold 41,000 tickets, apparently, and apparently this is mostly Mississippi State fans, and they are allowing them to have the cowbells in the stadium. I've never seen that before in my life, so I think they're trying to appease these Bulldogs heading out to the desert. I can't wait to see this one.
Because they know they couldn't stop them. They were still going to keister them things in there, you know? I love it, man. The fans are pumped up, and rightfully so. Mississippi State is legit. That point spread is not. I wish I could wager it, but I felt bad doing 2 weeks in a row with Mississippi State. But it's such an easy bet, in my opinion. I just think they're a dominant team, and they're going to continue this until they face one of these tougher opponents out of the West. But given Arkansas, 1 second. Let me get my points here. I keep saying Arkansas. Arizona. So given Arizona credit. You're not going to find that on this podcast from me, brother. I think Mississippi goes over there and gets their job done. So what is this on FS1? So right after the Indy race car, you can get on there and watch Mississippi State beat the hell out of Arizona. Give me Mississippi State 45, Arizona 20. So 25 points. I'll take the points and Mississippi State on this one.
Yeah, and this, I mean, they had a nice opener. Shane beat San Diego State 38-20, but that was literally the first win under this coach's belt. He's only won one game. I said two last time. I gave him too much credit. He's only won one home game, Shane. So, I mean, this is not your typical Power 5 road trip here. This is a total rebuild. I don't care how good this quarterback is. The only connection, people think he's good because Mike Leach recruited him down at Washington State. Well, he ain't playing for Mike Leach. You know who is? Will Rogers. 450 passing yards, 5 touchdowns in the last game, completed 50 passes, Shane. An MSU record. Mississippi State is 8-0 when they score 30 points during the Mike Leach era. Make it 9-0, Shane. I can't believe this. People are not going to believe it. We have never exchanged scores before we do the show.
Yeah.
But I got the same thing you got here. Mississippi State 45, Arizona 20, blowout city here.
Man, this is when if you're doing 3-team parlays and stuff, this one's going to find its way in a lot of my parlays. So just a fun bet, easy. I think literally it's printing money with Mississippi State right now until Vegas catches on.
Yeah. Now every other game, Shane, we got a ranked team, at least one involved. Number 23, Wake Forest at Vanderbilt. Wake Forest favored by 12.5 points. The over/under 65.5. This thing kicks off at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on the SEC Network. And SEC Nation is going to be on hand there, Shane. So what do you like in the matchup?
Oh, it sounds pretty, right? We got a quarterback. Is Wake Forest quarterback a go?
He apparently is, yes. Sam Hartman, who was, I think he was ACC Player of the Year or something.
There for a minute, here we got the SEC Network. We're 2-0. Mike Wright's looking fantastic. Vanderbilt is rolling. Nothing can go wrong. But, I think it's been a little bit fool's gold here, Mike. I'm telling you, Hawaii may be the worst team ever assembled in college football. Last week they were giving up a lot of movement to Elon. So, I just think that it's fun. I love it. I wish them nothing but the best. This shows you. I mean, even they had some videos coming out of the stadium and fan support. It's just they want to be good, and it's just a shame they're not there yet. But Mike can't do it all, and unless somebody steps up to help him, I just don't see them having a shot here against Wake Forest. Maybe if the quarterback wasn't a go, but you just ruined that for me. So apparently he is. So I've got Vanderbilt getting their first loss, so 2-1 to Wake Forest. But Mike, I have them covering the spread. I mean, we cannot count out Mike Wright. He is a focal piece of that team, and they are not going to be able to stop him and bottle him up the entire game. So expect some points here. So give me Wake Forest 31, Vandy 21.
Ooh, I like that score, Shane, and a lot of what you had to say. I mean, heck, Mike Wright scored 10 touchdowns this season. That's just incredible. You know what? His number one receiver, Will Shepard, has got at least one touchdown in 3 straight games. Jaden McGowan, the true freshman, he was SEC Freshman of the Week after week 0. And last week, 4 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. So he's starting to develop multiple options on the outside. Vanderbilt is forced to turn over in 11 consecutive games. This is another one, kind of like Kansas State. I mean, Wake Forest beat the hell out of VMI, but who the hell's that? You know what I mean? They got no players. They did have dang near 600 yards of offense. Like you said, the quarterback, Hartman's back. He's thrown for over 9,000 yards in his career. But I think where a lot of people are thinking that just means Wake Forest is awesome again. I mean, I don't think he's touched a football in 6 weeks. So there might be some rust. And I think, kind of like you, I think Vanderbilt keeps this thing competitive. But going into the fourth quarter, I do think Wake Forest pulls away. And unlike you, though, I've got Wake Forest covering this spread, but not by very much at all. Wake Forest 35, Vanderbilt 21. So we're talking, a point and a half. I think this is going to be a tight spread ball game.
And you hate Vandy.
All right, how about this one, Shane? Appalachian State at number 6, Texas A&M. You finally get to reveal your spread here. Aggies favored by 18.5 points. The over-under is 54 total points. Game kicks off at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on ESPN2.
Well, I tried to give you this score yesterday, Mike, but I guess I won't hold it any longer. There's a lot of things I'm looking forward to this game, and obviously Haynes, but just the bounce back. And I've been saying this for multiple years. I'm so sick and tired of Jimbo's slow start down there at Texas A&M. So I cannot say that we're not going to have it this game. App State is a lot better than Sam Houston, and they had a tough time keeping them out of the backfield. So what kind of improvement do we see from week 1 to week 2? I'm hearing a lot of things out of camp down there, man. I'm hearing a lot of reporters come out, a lot of coaches come out and saying, "Hey, we're fixing it." We realized there was a couple of things and they had a couple of fancy excuses, but I think Texas A&M finally gets back on track. And maybe, and I know it's crazy, but maybe you needed a team like Sam Houston to just kind of pop you in the mouth and remind you that big boy football is coming down the pike. App State is not big boy football, but it is a team that has upset people. I'm sure you're going to hear the Michigan talks and all that stuff again. I don't think we're going to have an upset. Until I see it, I think we'll still have a slow, sluggish start. But I think if we saw anything last week, that Texas A&M defense is legit. So I think they shut down App State. So give me A&M covering. And so what's the score? 19? Is that the spread on this thing? I don't know if it's
I got it at 18.5.
Okay. So Texas A&M 35, App State 10.
Ooh, I love that one, Shane. Yeah, I mean, you talk about that defense. They have not allowed a touchdown since October 23rd, 2021 in Kyle Field. So, I mean, that's an incredible stat. That just goes to show what kind of elite defense they got there in College Station. Haynes King, we talked about him on the last episode, maybe forcing the ball a little bit, but hell, Jimbo says that's what we want him doing. Getting reps with these receivers. I don't think he's got to be conservative, but he's just got to not force the issue. As long as he doesn't do that, they should cruise in this game. Anaya Smith, what can you say about that guy? 6 catches, 164, and 2 touchdowns last week. That 164 was a career high for Anais. They did get the running game going in the second half. If they get the running game going right out the gate, they're going to blow App State off the field. They scored 61 last week, though, Shane, against North Carolina. The quarterback had 6 touchdowns, and their running back had 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hey, they scored 61 against North Carolina. I'm giving them 13 against A&M because this is a real damn defense they're going to be playing. Absolutely. We almost got a very similar score, Shane. Texas A&M 33, App State 13. So I'm right there with you. I got A&M winning big and covering the spread.
Nice.
Now, how about this matchup, Shane? This is a big one for at least this network. Number 1, Alabama on the road at Texas. Crimson Tide favored by 20.5. The over-under 65.5. And this thing kicks off noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on Fox. Man, they got to be fired up to grab that one Alabama game. You know what?
Oh, Matthew McConaughey's going to be so pissed at this game, brother. This, it's so funny that you mentioned that because we got stuck watching Big 12 football, week 0 because that was, for some reason, the only thing on TV. And I saw more advertising for Alabama than I did their own conference. And then the second one was Texas, which is leaving and going to the SEC. There is a lot of cool stuff going on with this game. There's a lot of fun storylines. You got Steve Sarkisian. You got, Texas coming over to the SEC. I'm sure they're going to mention Arch Manning a million times while we're down there. So there's going to be all kinds of storylines coming out. But if you filter through all that bullshit, Mike, I'm telling you, this comes down to two teams, man. One on, one off, and it's just kind of like what Kirby said. I said this in yesterday's show. It's just, face it, boys, Alabama's got better talent. They got better boys on that roster, and it's not even close. This is, I think, the true kickoff. Nobody's talking about week one, and that's. I'm not saying that Saban likes that rat poison, because he don't, but he likes being noticed as the best team in the country. He wants his team. These players, they're all on social media, and they see people talking about Georgia. They see people talking about Florida, and all. They're not getting any loving off week one. I think they get it week 2, brother. I think this is a statement game. It's very similar to that USC Alabama matchup we saw a few years back. You remember they pumped it up as two juggernaut programs, and then it was like 50 points down. I expect the similar thing here. So at least we'll get to see the steer while they're out there. But that's about the only exciting thing you're going to see from Texas, because I've got the score here: 41 Alabama, Texas 14.
And I don't know if you saw this clip, Shane. I got to play it real quick. Nick Saban found out the horns down is a 15-yard penalty.
Clarified this offseason that the horns down hand gesture would be a penalty. Have you addressed that with the team going into this game?
What's that?
The horns down hand gesture could be a 15-yard penalty.
I have not addressed it with the team, but I appreciate you letting me know that. So, we got a lot of other things we need to really worry about. But I think that's a good thing for me to go over with the team, so I appreciate that.
Well, brother, you better be ready for some 15-yard penalties, because they are coming, because Crimson Tide are in town, Shane. Bryce Young scored 6 touchdowns last week. How about this, Shane? In his 7 games last year that he faced a top 50 pass defense, averaged 313 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, and over 63% completion percentage. Bryce Young gets locked in for these big games. And this is the first big game of the season for Alabama. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 rushes, 93 yards last week. This is going to be his national breakout game. He's going to go off. More good news, Cam Latu, the tight end, didn't play last week, expected to go in this one. Utah State had 7 first downs last week, Shane. Texas will probably get more than that, but I hesitate to even go that far. Wager of the week, Shane.
Oh,
Alabama 48, Texas 7. This is going to be a bloodbath down there in Austin.
You've been calling this for months now, Mike.
Yeah, so I had to stick with it,
That's right. Yeah, let's bash him one more time before they join the conference, Mike. Then we'll be Texas supporters. But until then, man, Alabama, this is a, like you said, this is going to be a statement game. It's going to have so much national media attention, and this is a kickoff for Bryce in the Heisman race. It's just so many underlying stories coming out. So I love this matchup, and it's just not going to be favorable for the Longhorns.
No, not at all. Well, how about this one, brother? I know you're excited for it, and I know you're excited just for me saying this, but number 24, Tennessee, on the road, 6-point favorite against, I believe, number 17, Pitt. The over-under 67.5 points. Game kicks off at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on ABC, nationally televised for that Vols, Shane. Who do you like in the ball game?
Who do I like, Mike? Who do I like? It's been nonstop all week. Pitt, woe is me. We're a little conference. They're just playing this thing down. You know why they're doing that, Mike? Because when they get beat, they don't have to answer questions to their own media. Because Tennessee is a different program than they were last year. You hear the coaches. They're talking. I mean, we're knocked off 4 seconds per play. So this Tennessee offense is an efficient machine right now. There's some question marks on defense, but we've discussed that earlier this week. I think a lot of that had to do with vanilla play calling. I do think there was some mistakes clearly, but some of that may get exposed a little bit against Pitt because I do like Pitt. I've watched a little bit of that West Virginia game. They've got some weapons. They got a hell of an offensive line, and they can make this a ball game if we allow it. I just don't think we allow it. I think Tennessee's not going to do like they did last year and just, play with their food here. They're going to come out and eat. As Heupel likes to say, don't even look at the damn scoreboard because that thing's going to be ringing all night long. So give me them Tennessee Volunteers big, 42. Pitt staying in it. I think it's going to be a shootout there for a little bit. 28. They just can't keep up with them Volunteers.
Yeah, speaking of, little clips here, we got another one, Shade. This Pitt Lyman thinks Tennessee is a pretty ball club.
It's going to be a great team to go against. Very big boys, going to be the prettiest team we probably see, but we're excited to take on the challenge. Can't wait for it.
Are there lessons you
Oh, is he trying to say, it sounds to me like he's saying they're soft. How about you?
Oh, well, I don't care what he says because he's going to get that ass whooped here in a little bit.
And, we forgot to mention, Shade, we cannot omit this. This is the Johnny Majors Classic.
Yes.
Rest in peace, one of the best of all time. Won the national championship at Pitt. But a heck of a coach, one of the best of all time. Of course, these two played last year. Pitt won 41-34. But, we've been saying it all week, Shane. I mean, Pitt has regressed. Tennessee has gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where this game is played. You referenced the West Virginia game. I watched that myself over the today, leading up to this, and man, I come away with it thinking West Virginia should have won that ball game. So
yeah.
Pitt did have 5 sacks in the ball game. That is something that is certainly caught my attention because if they win the line of scrimmage against Tennessee's offensive line, that is key to them not only staying in this game but to potentially even winning it. So that's something to consider. Tennessee has scored 45 or more points in 4 consecutive games, Shane. That's a record going back to 1993. That's how red hot the Vols are. Tennessee's got the number 1 scoring offense in the SEC. Pitt's got the number 11 scoring defense in the ACC. So,
right.
Mismatch. Tennessee 42, Pitt 27. Again, we almost have the identical score there, but I got a little bit more confidence in your Vols than you do, Shane.
I know, man. I tell you what, Johnny Majors, I not to go, but I go back on because I didn't touch on it. One of my favorite coaches, my grandfather, passed away. This year, this was his coach, and there was camps. I don't know if you remember, Mike, but when Fulmer came in, there was a lot of people who didn't like Fulmer. They loved Johnny Majors and what he did down here and the culture he created. I've got a picture of me and my brother at an orange and white game with Coach Johnny, and I wanted nothing more than to play football for Mr. Majors. So I hate that we lost him, and he's still all around Knoxville down here, and I hope he's a big part of Pitt too. Winning national championship for them was really big. So don't forget that storyline because it does have meaning, and it's why it's a classic in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Shane, we got 2 SEC matchups to get to. South Carolina at Arkansas. Razorbacks favored by 8.5 points. The over-under's 53.5. The game kicks off at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on ESPN. And how about this, Shane? I had no idea. South Carolina's won 3 in a row in this series. Of course, they haven't played since 2017. And I got to say one more thing, Shane. These fans, man, starting Monday, Tuesday, they were so cordial, so nice. Now on Twitter, they might murder each other is basically what I'm seeing in my notification. So they are both ready for this matchup. Cannot wait for it. Who do you like in the game?
Oh man, you're right. It was nice at first, but then maybe they saw a tweet somewhere from a Gamecock that got on their timeline and it rubbed them wrong. And same vice versa for the South Carolina. Don't get me wrong. I love what Coach Beamer is doing down there in Columbia. I think he is changing the culture, and it's not topical. It's not just sunglasses and a cool light show there in South Carolina. They really are building something. I just think they're a little ways away. I mean, A couple, maybe next year even. I think they're getting closer. The problem I'm having with South Carolina is the running game. In the SEC, you cannot win games if you cannot run the ball. And having them struggle last week, getting those chains moved on Georgia State, and then going against Arkansas, that's not something you could just fix overnight. So, like I said, the reason I don't like South Carolina in this one is because it's played early in the season. Late in the season, maybe they have an opportunity, but I don't see it, brother. So that being said, Arkansas relies on their running game. KJ is a Heisman candidate for a reason. They're going to be too much, too hard to handle, and that's why I've got this as my wager of the week. Give me Arkansas Razorbacks 35. South Carolina crawls back in it with 20, but not enough to cover the spread.
Man, 35-20, huh?
Yes, 35-20.
This matchup is just one of the many, Shane, that is cause for why we need to go to the new scheduling format. They haven't played since 2017. Here we are, 2022 season. We go to a new scheduling format. They're playing every other season. We need to see more of that in the SEC. I understand I'm not saying the geography makes sense or anything, but they're SEC. They need to be playing a heck of a lot more than they are now. And I think, unlike you, Shane, I think we're in for a classic game because the biggest thing that I saw from Arkansas in that opener, struggling in the secondary, Cincinnati players just streaking wide open. The quarterback could not hit him to save his life. I think Spencer Rattler, the key for South Carolina, they have got to block better. And I don't have a ton of confidence that that's necessarily going to happen because Arkansas was all over that Cincinnati quarterback. So if that's the same deal in this ball game, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a blowout. But I think South Carolina with so many new pieces, maybe they're overhyped, but I think it's more of a case of them just needing more time to get that continuity, get all these moving parts to gel together. Again, offensive line is a huge, huge issue, but if Spencer Rattler can make some plays, I think he can. I think this is going to be you can't say coming out party because everybody already knows the guy's name, but almost like his coming out party in a South Carolina uniform. Mm-hmm. I say all that, but I can't pick against the Razorbacks at home. Like you said, they are just a machine running the ball, and that is where South Carolina is at its weakest on the defense, is stopping the run. So give me Arkansas, but give me South Carolina in the points, Shane. I got it 35-28. I think it's going to be a one-score ball game. I think it's going to be kind of a back-and-forth type game, but the better team at home wins at the end of the day. All right, Shane, one more matchup. Number 20, Kentucky at number 12, Florida. Them Gators favored by 6 points at home. The over-under's 52.5 total points. And the game kicks off at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on ESPN. And they just announced officially, Shane, it's a sellout crowd down there in Gainesville. Going to be one heck of an atmosphere. The last four, they play annually. The last four of the series is tied 2-2. And Kentucky won last season 20-13 in Lexington. Who do you like in the ball game?
Mike, man, this is a game I've been looking forward to all offseason. And I thought, when we were down there at Media Days, it couldn't be any bigger. We made it as big. You picked Florida, second in the SEC. I picked Kentucky. We went round and round. You created a ruckus there with the Lexington folk, just how could you do that, and I just didn't think Florida would have a shot. And then enters the Utah game. After that one, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the TV and I'm like, this kid is legit. Anthony Richardson, we knew he had potential. We just didn't know he was that close to exposing the conference with what he is fully capable of doing, and that's just being a dominant quarterback in the SEC. But Mike, here's my thing with Kentucky. Was it beautiful at the start of the game? No. Did they make mistakes? Yes. Did they have trouble getting the ball rolling? Did Will Levis, did he have to work out some things and run for his life a few times against Miami of Ohio? Absolutely. But I love this team. I really do. I'm sitting there and I'm just doubling down on the fact that I think Kentucky is got a legit program. They did reload, man. We were wondering when Wandale left, like who fills his shoes? Well, here comes a kid from Virginia Tech. It's like it's just they reloaded everything. They have some problems with the offensive line, yes, but you heard Nick saying they addressed that this week. They're going to have the 5 best blockers out there. So if you fix that and you get a little bit of running game, I don't think Will was fully released last week. I think he will be this week. Anthony Richardson balled last week. Don't get me wrong. He is a fantastic athlete, but he himself alone cannot beat Kentucky. It's at home. It's going to be good. And I may be looking back and saying, damn, Shane, what are you talking about? You just talked about how good Anthony is, and then you go in against him. But until I see it, I got to stick with the Big Blue Nation. So give me Kentucky winning down there in Gainesville. I guess now we're considering this an upset, even though we wouldn't have last week. 38, Florida 35. I think it's a high-scoring game. Ooh. I just like Kentucky winning at the last play.
Yeah, and you know who really likes that prediction, Shane, is old J.J. Weaver with some bold talk about how they're going to corral Anthony Richardson. Let's kick it over to him real quick.
We're going to talk, but we just don't have to play our game.
When you watch film of them and you see 15 out there running around, what jumps off the tape when you see him?
He's a great quarterback. We just need to contain him. Like he's gonna run, he's gonna do things with his feet, but we just gotta contain him, have a quarterback spot, and he's not gonna be able to do none of that against us because we're going to game plan.
Yeah, so hey, that's bold after what we saw against Anthony Richardson against Utah. But he may have a point, Shane, because that's how Richardson took over that ball game with his feet. 3 touchdowns on the ground. He didn't have a passing touchdown, although he did have that incredible 2-point play. But, there might be something to that, Shane. Keep Anthony Richardson in the pocket. I'm not saying he can't beat you with his arm. Hell, he could throw it 75, 80 yards down the field. I've seen him do it. But I think Kentucky, where they're at right now, they probably will want Anthony Richardson to basically force him to beat him with his arm rather than his legs because he's such a weapon there. And that could be trouble, Shane, because Kentucky's getting back Jordan Wright. That was announced here on Thursday. Of course, we talked about it with both our interviews. But Jordan Wright, 106 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks during his career. He's a major, major weapon for Kentucky on that defensive edge. Here's an interesting little matchup, though, Shane. Kentucky dead last right now in rushing in the SEC.
Yeah.
Florida dead last in defending the rush. So, hey, something's got to give in that aspect. Got to see Kentucky get a little bit more of a push, and they should against the Florida Gators in this matchup. Loved what I saw from some of these young receivers. And I really think that Will Levis, who had such a bad game against Florida last year, I think, he's got a lot of, I don't want to say money on the line, but he cannot have a poor performance in this matchup against Anthony Richardson and kind of come out here and have all that NFL hype that he's currently getting. I mean, he has got to step up in a big, big way, and I think he will, just like you, Shane. I think Will Levis has a great game, but he ain't Anthony Richardson, son. I mean, oh, man. Anthony Richardson put the team on his back last week, carried him to victory. He may have to do it again, Shane, but he's got some help from Osiris Torrance. I didn't know this, Shane. He's never allowed a sack in his dang career. He's a 4-year starter on the offensive line. First year here at Florida, of course. Ricky Pershaw, 7 catches, 107 yards against Utah. Look for him to get going. He's going to be critical for the Florida Gators in this matchup. I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth type affair. I don't think it's going to be as high-scoring as you do, but I think the swamp is back. Hell, you're the one out here tweeting all this swamp is back. The swamp is back, baby.
Yes.
Florida, 28. Kentucky, 24. Kentucky covers the spread, but they don't win a ball game. That's how and this is a major, major game. Could see it going either way. You could easily talk me into Kentucky winning this ball game. I think the disrespect from Kentucky this week is just so disingenuous and so that may give the fuel for them to pull what really isn't an upset. This is a toss-up game.
Yeah, and maybe that's me. I just think maybe the Utah game wasn't good for Florida, and the reason I'm saying that is, I think it's good for fans. I think it's good for the swamp and the environment down there. It's a sold-out crowd. But I think, again, it's more fuel for this Kentucky team. This is a Big Blue Nation program that came out, had a high expectations, and the week one didn't go exactly what they wanted, but they crowned Florida Gators just over 1 week in one game. So again, we're basing that off a poll that Utah is legit. I don't think this Utah quarterback was great, but he's no Will Levis. He's a better quarterback. So, I don't know. I just think that nobody's talking. It's not a Heisman thing. It's not a SEC championship thing. You're being told all week that Florida is still better than you. So I think that is the fuel that Mark and company are going to use, and that's why I like them winning this game.
Well, Shane, I cannot wait to watch this game and all these games. So many good matchups here in the SEC. We've went really long on this one, so unless you got anything else, I'm ready to hop off this one and watch some football.
I am too, man. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm pumped up. All college this weekend is going to be freaking awesome. If you don't like our picks, remember we're going to have Friday night lights, so we'll be drinking some cold beers later this evening. Jump on there, the Twitter Spaces, and we'll discuss what you think will happen in these games. So, but Mike, that's all I've got, brother.
Yeah, and because I've been under the weather, Shane, I have not had a sip of alcohol since the last one we did, so I'm going to be feeling pretty good. I think I'm going to be up to the task of taking down some cold ones on Friday. Cannot wait for this football. I appreciate you, brother, as always, for joining me, and we appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols. Hey, what's Pitt ranked?
16, I think 16, 17.
Upset.